Here are the top 5 neighborhoods in Alpharetta, Georgia. The first neighborhood on the list is the Tuxford neighborhood. This is off of Kimball Bridge Road in Alpharetta, and in general, that area right there around Kimball Bridge Road has lots of neighborhoods that are great for families. Certainly a very family-friendly area all around Alpharetta, but especially right there off of Kimball Bridge Road, lots of great neighborhoods there. Most of the homes built in the Tuxford neighborhood were built in the late 80s and early 90s, and the average size home here is between 3,500 square feet and 5,000 square feet. The typical lot size for a home here is about 1/4 of an acre to 1/2 an acre. Like many of the neighborhoods in Alpharetta, this neighborhood also has an HOA with a pool and tennis courts and like a clubhouse, and so this is pretty common for HOAs here in Georgia. An example of a home in this neighborhood is 10520 Tuxford Drive. This home was recently sold in the neighborhood. It's a 4-bed, 4-bath home, 3,500 square feet, built in 1990 and 0.3 acres. What's up, y'all? My name is Victor with Atlanta Suburban Living, and we put out videos every week about what it's like to live in Atlanta and the surrounding suburbs. The second neighborhood on the list of the top 5 neighborhoods of Alpharetta, Georgia is the Glen Abbey neighborhood. This one is also off of Kimball Bridge Road. We've got some other ones that are not on Kimball Bridge Road, but this area is really great for finding neighborhoods. And if you're thinking about buying a home here in Alpharetta or any part of Metro Atlanta, feel free to call, text, or email me anytime. I'm a local real estate agent here in Metro Atlanta, and I'd be happy to help with your moving needs. Even if you just have a question about what it's like to live here, feel free to call, text, email me anytime. Thank you so much to everybody who has reached out. When it comes to the Glen Abbey neighborhood, most of the homes here were built in the late 90s and early 2000s. The average sized home in this neighborhood is between 4,500 square feet and 6,000 square feet. Most of the lots in this neighborhood are between 1/4 of an acre to 1/2 an acre. And the HOA for this neighborhood is also very elaborate. Multiple tennis courts. They've got a great pool and clubhouse, and so typical kind of amenities that you find here in Alpharetta for the HOAs. Now, a quick word about HOAs. I know many people who watch the channel from other states don't want to live in a neighborhood with HOAs because you're used to these terrible HOA Karens that complain about the neighborhood, or they write fines for people who maybe don't follow the rules. Just a quick word of caution, that's not really the case so much here in Atlanta. Many of the HOAs, including the one here in Glen Abbey, they're not trying to be difficult with the neighbors. They're not trying to be like writing up people for the different rules. I mean, of course there are rules, but they're not as strict here in Georgia as they are in other states. Many of these HOAs are just trying to collect enough money to manage the pool and the tennis courts and all of the amenities. A sample home for the Glen Abbey neighborhood is 725 Barnsley Lane. It's a 6-bed, 6.5 bath home, 6,600 square feet, built in 2001 on 1 acre. And then the third neighborhood on the list of the top 5 neighborhoods of Alpharetta, Georgia is not so much a neighborhood with an HOA, but it is the downtown Alpharetta area. And the reason why I've included this area in the list of the top 5 neighborhoods is because this is often a target area for many people who want to move to Alpharetta. They want to be within walking distance of downtown Alpharetta. And so this is a super common place for many people to live, and it's really grown a lot, especially in the last 5 to 10 years. They've built a lot of townhomes and condos right there within walking distance. So when it comes to like the average sized home and the average age of the home, it varies greatly because downtown Alpharetta was built obviously like at the very beginning of the city decades ago. And so there are some older homes here, some single family residents and that are from the 70s and 80s, but there are also some newer homes here as well from the late 2000s, even built in the last 5 years. There's quite a few homes within walking distance of downtown Alpharetta. To give you a good idea of what downtown Alpharetta is like, let's go there now to give you a quick tour of the area. So this is the downtown area of Alpharetta, and it's very close to the Avalon. There's actually like a walking trail that you could get to the Avalon from here in downtown. The Greenway is what it's called, and the Greenway goes all around Alpharetta, but one of those trails is from here to the Avalon. And so this is really where Behind me actually is the city hall for the Alpharetta, for the city of Alpharetta, and then all the stores and the restaurants here. This is really what a typical downtown area looks like. So kind of similar to the Avalon, again, lots of commercial spaces here besides the city hall area. Across the street over here, we've got a barber shop. We've got a place over here called Exquisite Living, Vitality Bowls. Also a place called Boarding Pass. It's a coffee shop over here. I know there's a Kilwins right here on the corner because my kids love this Kilwins here. We get ice cream here all the time whenever we come walking around downtown Alpharetta. They've also got other like candies and other sweets and stuff here. But at the end over here on this side of downtown, they've got the big green lawn over here. This is kind of what we see in a lot of these downtown areas. They've also got a cool brewery over here called Jekyll Brewing. And then they have, again, a bunch of other stores and restaurants here. One across the street called Magnolia Moon. Next to that is Southern Local. There's a lot of these kinds of shops, Southern Local, in these downtown areas. It's kind of local goods. You can also find a lot of like souvenirs. People who live in the area kind of making different things, different crafts, and they sell them in these kinds of stores. So this is also definitely a super popular place to visit for people who live here in the Alpharetta area. This is the big green lawn. I'm sure you've seen in many of our videos, and a lot of these downtown areas kind of have this big green lawn. Again, during evenings and weekends, it's a lot more full, a lot more people hanging out here on the lawn, but right now it's a weekday, and so that's why you don't see as many people out and about. I try to film when there's not so many people out so they don't think I'm crazy walking around with this camera pointed at my face. But definitely a popular place here in downtown Alpharetta. And then for the fourth neighborhood on the list of the top 5 neighborhoods of Alpharetta, this one is one of my favorites, but stay tuned to the end where I'm going to tell you about my absolute favorite, the most popular neighborhood in all of Alpharetta will be number 5, but number 4 is Kimball Farms. This one is also off of Kimball Bridge Road. Most of the homes in this neighborhood were built in the late 90s. The average size home in this neighborhood is between 5,000 and 7,000 square feet. And when it comes to the lot sizes in this neighborhood, you're looking at about half an acre to an acre and a half. An example of a home in this neighborhood is 1085 Gunter Court. It's a 6-bedroom, 5-bath home that recently sold. This home has 5,500 square feet, built in 1999 on 1.4 acres. Many of the homes in this neighborhood have basements. I'd say this is pretty common for homes in Alpharetta and all of Metro Atlanta. Maybe about a third to half of the homes have basements, but you really want to be careful when it comes to buying a home with a basement, as these basement areas are different than spaces that are above ground. You want to make sure that any home with a basement in Georgia has the HVAC working in the basement. I know that sounds like maybe that would be obvious, but not all of the homes here have the HVAC or the air conditioning working in the basement. And so this is super important to pull the moisture out of a home or out of the basement area, because moisture always falls to the lowest part of the home. And because a basement is below ground, you tend to have a lot of moisture in that space. And we have a lot of humidity here in Atlanta. So it's very important for that HVAC or at least a dehumidifier to be pulling that moisture out of the basement. And then number 5 on the list, and overall the best neighborhood in Alpharetta and certainly the most popular neighborhood, is the Windward community. This is not just a neighborhood. This is like a whole series of neighborhoods. There must be over 1,000 homes in the Windward community, and it's off of Webbridge Road and North Point Parkway. And so they have the Lake Windward, which is kind of the middle of the neighborhood area, and there's a bunch of homes around Lake Windward. There are a ton of amenities in the Windward community. They've got like a whole series of tennis courts. It must be like 10 tennis courts at this Windward community. They've got also not just like a pool, but they've got like what they call like a water park. They've got like water slides and super elaborate pool area for the Windward community. Most of the homes in this neighborhood were built in the late 80s and many of them also in the 90s. The average size home for this neighborhood is between 3,000 and 5,000 square feet. And then there's also a very wide range of lot sizes here, ranging from a quarter of an acre to over 1 acre. A sample home in this neighborhood is 645 Linkside Hollow. It's a 5-bed, 5-bath home, 3,000 square feet, built in 1991, and it has 1 acre. Definitely a lot of great options when it comes to moving to Alpharetta. Whether or not you move here really depends on a lot of factors. There are some benefits to living in Alpharetta, but there's also some downsides to living here. If you want a full video about the pros and the cons of living in Alpharetta, you can check it out right here. I'll see you in the next one.